Unfiltered, uncensored, unprecedented TV. Hello and welcome to Ascending Order with me, Basil Valentine, here on Unprecedented TV. Today is Friday, the 5th of August, 2025. And it seems that the big moral, political, international question of the day, of course, the genocide in Gaza, gets ever more heated, ever more divisive, and indeed ever clearer about exactly who is on the side of evil. We had an extraordinary confession from the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, the other day. He also framed it in terms of good and evil, but not in quite the same way that the rest of us would. But let's begin with a clip from yesterday's hearings of the Gaza Tribunal in London, convened by Jeremy Corbyn, when his original motion to have a government inquiry into the horrors there were denied. This is the consultant surgeon Nick Maynard speaking yesterday.
Gaza has been failed by our media. Only 2 weeks ago, I was interviewed by the BBC and I was asked yet again whether there were Hamas command centres in the hospitals. This propaganda is being repeated by our media, being repeated by our government, and yet there is no verifiable, no remotely credible evidence to support those contentions. And there are vast numbers of witness testimonies from me and many other healthcare workers who have completely refuted those claims. I've been in these hospitals. I've had unlimited access to every square inch of these hospitals, and it is inconceivable to me that they are being used as Hamas command centres. Gaza's been failed by our government. I and many other healthcare workers have given detailed photographic evidence to senior members of this government and the previous government, and it has been ignored. They need to decide whether they want to believe the multiple witness testimonies from healthcare workers such as me who've got no axe to grind. We've got no political agenda. We're humanitarians. We are telling them as we see it. Or do they want to believe the Israeli propaganda, which is repeatedly being regurgitated by our media, and as I say, for which there is no verifiable or credible evidence? It is unconscionable that our government has not called for a full arms embargo. It is unconscionable that F-35 jets, for which our government is still supplying parts, are bombing those very children who I have had to operate on in Nasser Hospital and Al-Aqsa Hospital. It is unconscionable that they are still flying reconnaissance flights over Gaza, giving military intelligence to facilitate the bombing of Nasser Hospital 2 weeks ago.
Indeed, and the lawyer for a British aid worker who was killed by the Israelis while an RAF reconnaissance flight was in the air also spoke at the tribunal yesterday.
If I understand correctly, you represent the Henderson family.
I do.
And Henderson is a British citizen that was killed in the Gaza Strip.
He was an aid worker. He went out to do some voluntary work. He was in a 4x4 vehicle. There were several vehicles partaking in the work that they do by the provision of aid, and an Israeli drone fired upon them. It is highly likely that the information which was provided to the Israelis, which caused that strike, came from a plane flying over Israel from RAF Akrotiri. The British government have shown almost a hostility towards those families. For example, I specifically wrote to the Prime Minister and asked that the family are given an audience with either the Prime Minister or the Foreign Secretary or the Secretary of State for Defence. That took many, many months to come back, and they were told no. Eventually, after much haranguing, they said yes. They said, we'd like to be legally represented, can our lawyers come? There's an explicit no. That can be starkly contrasted with what happened when families of hostages were asked to come to number 10, and they were invited to bring their legal counsel with them, and they had King's Counsel with them, they had solicitors with them. Two different ball games, absolutely entirely.
So, in your opinion, there is a cover-up that is going on here, and that is the reason that the UK government is not willing to address the killing of its own citizens?
We have specifically asked on a number of occasions, can we have the footage, can we have the data of the plane that flew over when the aid workers were killed? We've been told no. So whether that's a cover-up, I'm sure you can give an opinion on, but it certainly comes across as a cover-up to me.
It certainly does come across as a cover-up. Another cover-up which has been uncovered by Declassified and Double Down News is the training of Israeli military officers here in the UK. John McAvoy uncovered that story yesterday at the Tribunal.
I want to turn to Israeli military officers training in Britain throughout the genocide. After months of stonewalling from both Conservative and Labour governments, we discovered that Israeli army officers have been allowed to train in Britain since October 2023. This information was provided to us earlier this year in response to a Freedom of Information request after several refusals through the Freedom of Information Act. The Ministry of Defence said that fewer than 5 Israeli officers had trained at the prestigious Royal College of Defence Studies in 2023 and 2024. But we subsequently found that at least one of those Israeli soldiers graduated from the RCDS just last month. So even as recently as last month, the UK is training soldiers from an army that is actively committing genocide.
Indeed, Double Down News have said this morning Israel's genocide is creating a world where fascism is mainstream and any evil possible. A world where child killing is an everyday norm and you can surveil, encircle and exterminate everyone and their everything. This is Israel's future for everyone. It's hell on earth. And that was illustrating the following.
Keep going.
Sorry, that's the wrong piece. This is the piece I have been looking for.
زي ما انت كده اطلق نار على المدنيين. الله اكبر. ايش حالك اللي بس بدنا نرجع حقنا نرجع. كل اللي بيصير فينا عشان الطحين. يا الله. عشان كله
from Gaza, but by no means untypical. Here's footage from one of yesterday's attacks. This is one of the last remaining residential buildings in Gaza City being systematically demolished by Israeli fighter jets, the Mustasha Tower. This is genocide because it's destroying the conditions for life. And here is the aftermath of such an attack. Hostages, if only Hamas would release the hostages, then all this would be over. Well, Netanyahu wrote a hostage deal a couple of weeks ago now, which Hamas accepted. And then as soon as they accepted it, he rejected it for the simple reason that they are very open about their desire to carry on with the ethnic cleansing. Here is the former head of Shin Bet on that very subject.
אנחנו חייבים להיות מאוד מאוד ברורים, ליצור ודאות אצל הפלסטינאים, שלא תהיה מדינה פלסטינאית. חשוב מאוד להגיד להם, אין, תשכחו מהחלום הזה. אחרי אוסלו, הכישלון של אוסלו ליתר דיוק, ואחרי 7 לאוקטובר, לא תהיה מדינה פלסטינאית. מדינת ישראל חייבת לעמוד על שלה, ולא רק זה, היא חייבת לפעול על פי ההנחיה של טראמפ כאן, להתחיל לנפנף אנשים מעזה, ואני מודיע, לא רק מעזה, ביו"ש כל כפר שיפעל, אנחנו צריכים להעיף את כל הכפר הזה לכיוון ירדן, ושימצאו להם את הדרך. מדינת ישראל חייבת להיות נקייה מהפלסטינאים, גם ביו"ש וגם בעזה, וזה המסר שעם ישראל צריך להבין.
Typically genocidal Israeli official there. But the hostages, I hear you say, well, just this morning, the Qassam brigades have released a video of one of the Israelis still in Hamas Qassam brigade captivity, Guy Dalal. And this is what he has to say. This tape was just released a few minutes ago.
אני גיא גלבוע דלל, האסיר שנמצא בשבי גדודי אל-גסם בעיר עזה. היום יום חמישי, ה-28 לאוגוסט 2025. אני לא מאמין שאני בחיים אחרי 22 חודשי שבי. קשים מאוד מאוד. אנחנו פה, קשה.
Apologies for the Arabic subtitles there. What he's saying is we are no longer the hostages of the Qassam brigades. We are the hostages of Netanyahu. But at least he's still alive, which is more than can be said for most of the people in Gaza. So this battle between good and evil, as it's been framed, who is on which side? We had an extraordinary interview yesterday from Mike Huckabee, the US ambassador to Israel, in which he claimed the genocide heirs are the goodies. Really bizarre stuff. Here it is.
If you really look at this stepping back, you don't see just a geopolitical conflict. What you see is a spiritual conflict. This is a battle of the ages. This is not horizontal. It's not left, right, liberal, conservative. This is a vertical battle. It's heaven versus hell. It's good versus evil. People need to see it in that context or they'll miss the whole thing. What Hamas did was a level of evil, the likes of which you just look throughout all history and would be hard-pressed to find anything like it. Where does that come from? It doesn't come just from socio-political or economic pressures. It comes from an evil that originates from the most demonic forces that have ever been unleashed on this earth. And that's why I feel like particularly Christian believers in the United States and across the world need to recognize it. You don't stand with Israel because you agree with their government or everything. You stand with Israel because Israel is standing for a tradition of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and for the law, for the light, for the foundation of Western civilization itself, and to stand for those who would wish to annihilate not just every Jew, but every Christian, which is the ultimate goal of people like Hamas. You got to pick a side. This is not something where it's, well, this side, but this side. Pick a side, because you can't straddle this fence. You just can't.
Pastor Huckabee, thanks so much for taking the time for us today.
Paul,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Really bizarro stuff there from Mike Huckabee. Notice the hideous set as well with the Star of Remphan, the so-called Star of David, there alongside the Stars and Stripes. Huckabee is deeply ignorant. He's obviously ignorant of the fact that there is a Christian community in Gaza currently being exterminated by the Israelis, by the Zionists. He claims are on the side of the great Judeo-Christian tradition. That community, of course, untouched by Hamas, which is a national liberation movement. But further, he talks about some unspeakable evil that was committed on October the 7th. October the 7th was a jailbreak. The original purpose of the mission was to take Israeli hostages, almost exclusively military personnel wherever possible, and exchange them for some of the thousands of hostages in the Israeli torture, rape, and murder gulag. That, of course, was only partially successful. Remember, there was a partial exchange of hostages early last year before Israel decided to take the path of genocide. We'll come on to the condition of some of the Palestinian hostages, most of whom are civilians in the Israeli torture gulag. But, I mean, Huckabee has completely lost his moral compass, if he ever had one. Imploring American Christians there to stand on the side of genocide is deeply twisted stuff. And I can only hope that the American public, indeed they are starting to turn against the genocidaires. People can see evil for what it is. I've no doubt Huckabee, in coming out with all that nonsense, continues to believe the rubbish about beheaded babies, or babies in ovens, mass rapes, all the other atrocity propaganda, which has been thoroughly debunked and turned out to be lies. On the other hand, Israelis have been protesting for the right to rape. Yes, when soldiers were detained following the rape of a Palestinian detainee, a medic, with an iron bar, they went to the prison to complain that the soldiers should indeed be allowed to violate Palestinians in any way they wish. Personally, I think Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur for the Occupied Territories, has a much better take on good and evil.
I really feel ashamed as a human being, as a mother, as a lawyer, as someone who talks to member states almost every day. And I mean, seriously, the Palestinians, as I've known them for the past 15, 20 years, I mean, they've not had one day without the brutality of the occupation, the settlements, extrajudicial killings, forced displacement, deportations, arrests and detentions, and all the other things that are crimes under the Rome Statute in their life. And actually, Palestinians have been experiencing crimes longer than, even before that we were born. So this is what I'm saying. It's such a protracted injustice that today I feel ashamed, because the genocide that is taking place in Gaza, which is not sparing anyone, it's not just Gaza. Israel is on an erasure mission of the Palestinians between the river and the sea. And the genocide is already leaking out in the West Bank.
We heard at the top of the hour from Professor Nick Maynard, who's done more than one tour of duty heroically as a surgeon in Gaza. Here is another medic, this time speaking on mainstream corporate media. Yes, the truth is finally beginning to get out about some of the horrors perpetrated by the occupation forces.
Yeah, we had Professor Nick Maynard on the show a while ago, and you know him, and I know you know him quite well, and he talked about some of these injuries, and he saw a pattern. Although on some days that there would be bullet holes in the head, other days he mentioned boys coming in with bullets to their testicles. And he suggested it was some sort of game that the IDF soldiers were playing. They'd obviously deny that. But you've seen similar patterns, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen Nick's interview. I was inside Gaza at the time. Obviously, we don't have access to any communications. And when I was in the intensive care unit one day, I asked exactly that question. We had 4 or 5 young adults, children, admitted on the same day with almost identical injuries. And when we look back on the admission dates of other children and young adults, they had almost identical injuries. So that could be gunshot wounds to the head, gunshot wounds to the spinal cord, gunshot wounds to the limbs.
Yeah.
Now, the Israelis have said that they do not do this. That's not to decry your experience or what you saw, but just to keep a balance in what information we're giving.
So this battle between good and evil is very much alive in the United States, where I'm delighted to say a new initiative to prosecute the United States government and hold key officials in the administration responsible for the genocide, which indeed they are under the 1948 Geneva Convention, has now been launched in New York yesterday, as we can hear now.
Taxpayers, what do you demand? Stop the genocide!
Today we're here in New York to announce the filing of a lawsuit with the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights against the United States for its complicity in Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people.
This is not just a legal claim, it is a moral indictment. It is a demand that those who profit from unfathomable death be made to face the masses.
Since September 7th, over 100 members of my Wahidi family have been killed in Gaza. We Palestinians are human beings. We deserve a future defined by peace, dignity, honor, and hope.
In this petition, it's truly the first of its kind, a historic time where we're holding the United States accountable for complicity in Israel's actions in Gaza.
And as a U.S. citizen and taxpayer, it disgusts us that our money has been going to commit these crimes against our family members, instead of going to make life at home easier for us, for our communities. And that's exactly why this genocide is a deeply personal affair for all of us.
What I witnessed in Gaza wasn't through articles or the news. I was there. Palestine is a referendum that the world has an opportunity to answer.
The Genocide Convention and other international legal mechanisms make it very clear that it's not just that you're forbidden from committing genocide, but that if you're aiding and abetting, or if you're idly standing by, or if you're complicit in some other way in genocide, you are also on the hook for that. And that's the argument that we've made in our over 100-page lawsuit.
We have to push the envelope. Every opportunity we have to push the narrative, to change it, to get it right, to tell the truth, to reveal the enemies, to reveal the criminals, to tell everybody who the culprits are, and to lift up the names of our brothers and sisters whose lives deserve dignity.
Or who deserve to live at the very least. It seems that there is a groundswell of anti-genocide feeling, particularly among Democrats, but also among Republicans. The polls look very bad for the pariah state of Israel. It's completely lost the support of all young people. We're not all brainwashed by decades of propaganda. We can see for ourselves what's going on social media. As a result, a lot of the AIPAC-funded candidates, the mouthpieces for genocide, who populate Congress, are finding themselves challenged. We'll come on to Thomas Massie in a moment. Far and away, it would seem the most principled individual, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene, in the whole of the United States Congress. And they are, of course, both Republicans. Massie is leading the charge when it comes to full disclosure of the Epstein files. And yesterday, he revealed the name of one of the billionaires who is cited in the Epstein Black Book and who is funding campaign ads against him, trying to unseat him from his position in Congress. But first of all, let's have a look at one of the battles on the Democrat side for the nomination to Congress. An anti-genocide candidate is taking on a genocide heir.
While Donald Trump is terrorizing our city, kidnapping our friends and neighbors, kicking us off our health care, why is our member of Congress funded by Trump's biggest donors and voting for his harmful agenda? Our city, our country, our democracy is strongest when we stand up and fight back. I'm Angela Gonzalez Torres. I'm running for Congress because LA deserves a fighter. Today, I am proud to say our grassroots campaign is endorsed by Justice Democrats. I feel the urgency of this moment as ICE is tearing our families apart. When I was just 15, my dad was deported, leaving my mom to raise me and my 3 sisters on her own. So I know what it feels like when the cost of living gets in the way of us living our lives. My family has faced the same struggles our community faces today. Housing instability, wage stagnation, gun violence, but I have seen us come together and fight back. That is what we need in our member of Congress, a fighter, but that is not what we are getting. Jimmy Gomez promised to not take corporate PAC money, but he lied. He has raked in millions from corporate PACs of all kinds, including big pharma and for-profit prison companies that run ICE detention centers. While gentrification and the housing crisis has left families homeless, he has been cashing campaign checks from the same developers and corporations raising our prices. And as billions of our tax dollars fuel destruction, famine, and genocide in Gaza, he has racked up millions in support from AIPAC, funded by Trump's biggest donors. We are doing things differently. I am not taking a dime from AIPAC or any corporate PAC money. I'm going to fight for you and for Los Angeles, not corporate PACs, because I've been there. This is about standing up to corruption, calling out a genocide when we see one, and building a Los Angeles that we can all afford, not just the wealthy or well-connected. LA, we deserve a fighter. I'm Angela Gonzalez Torres, endorsed by Justice Democrats. Y somos el corazón de Los Angeles. So let's take this seat back together. Join us today.
You think of Angela's politics in general, the crucial thing there is that she used the word genocide twice to describe what's happening in Palestine, which of course is a no-no among most mainstream politicians. You have to avoid telling the truth if at all possible. Right, now we move on to one of the biggest, greatest campaigners against genocide in the whole of the United States. I'm talking about the Jewish Medea Benjamin, who regularly doorsteps members of Congress to ask them for their position on the genocide, and indeed if they could even manage a few kind words for the starving children of Gaza. Here's her latest efforts.
I'm going to ask members of Congress to send a message to the hungry children of Gaza. Let's hear what they have to say.
Might you have a message to send to the hungry children of Gaza?
No, I don't right now. I'm focusing on something.
I know, but this is urgent. People are starving. Children are starving.
They are, and that's too bad. No, listen.
No message to them?
Congressman, a quick word to the hungry children of Gaza. Might you have a word to say to them, Congressman?
Please, you know, children are starving in Gaza. Could you say something to them? That's your message to the children of Gaza, is silence? Absolute silence.
Congressman, could you send a message to the hungry children of Gaza?
Send a message to them?
Yes.
Send a message to the terrorists in Gaza that they need to quit their
But no, a message to
activities.
the children. I'm talking about the children who are not responsible for anything. Can you just send them a message?
You need to talk to the people who are responsible, which are the terrorists in Gaza.
Children are starving, and I wonder if you have anything to say to them.
Yeah, they need to convince the terrorists to quit being terrorists.
The children, what if they're 2 years old? They're starving, they're dying of starvation. That doesn't concern you?
Does it concern you?
Yes.
Are you over there giving them aid?
I can't get in because Israel won't allow us. So you have nothing to say to those children.
Well, terrorists are bad.
Shame on you. Congressman, do you have a message for the children of Gaza
We
who are
missed you
hungry?
so much. It's great to see you.
Do you have a message for the hungry children of Gaza?
Do you know my name at all yet?
It doesn't matter. I'm
random
asking random members, do you have a message to the children of Gaza?
Have a great day. Thank you.
I wondered if you'd have a message to the children of Gaza.
I wonder if you're ever going to disclose who pays you year after year to be here.
Well, you're paid by AIPAC, but I'm paid by nobody, actually. But do you have a message for the children of Gaza who are hungry? No message to the hungry children of Gaza? Congressman, a message.
Already.
I know, but I didn't get a satisfactory answer.
I didn't think it was a satisfactory question.
It's not a legitimate question to ask you to send a message to the starving children of Gaza?
Is it because of all the money AIPAC gives you?
you can say is what a truly abysmal collection of human beings populate the United States Congress, utterly soulless ghouls. The whole lot need to be swept away and replaced with genuine human beings with hearts and souls. I like to believe that there is a great global awakening going on, stirring in the background of humanity against the oligarchy that seems determined to normalize genocide and show such callous disregard for starving children. It is indeed a battle between good and evil, but Mike Huckabee is on the wrong side of it. On the right side are the people on the flotilla who are trying to do something about the starving children of Gaza. The latest batch of ships set sail from Tunis yesterday. I'm hoping to be joined next week by Dr. Frank Romano, who is on board one of the boats that left Barcelona a few days ago. But first, here's the latest from Tunis just as the boats departed.
Keep going. You are a superhero.
I wish them all the luck and all the safety.
I came here initially to join the Samud flotilla to break the illegal siege on Gaza. However, for me being a Palestinian, that did not work out.
It's my nationality, my homeland, everything I know, it's Palestine.
I came here in the end in order to give my full support to everyone that's going and to just be with them every step of the way as far as I can get.
I came here all the way from Jordan to Tunis to say goodbye to the participants of the flotilla.
I'm so grateful. Actually, I'm so grateful. All of these people have the Palestinian soil as us, so I'm so grateful for that.
From a Palestinian perspective, this is honestly the best thing happened in history for the Palestinian people.
Thanks a lot to them for doing all of this for humanity. Thanks a lot.
As I reported yesterday, the fascist Israeli security minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has said that everybody on the flotilla will be treated as a terrorist. Now, there are 50 boats with a total of about 800 people on board heading for Gaza. If they are intercepted in international waters and the boats stolen, then that will be a breach of international law. At least 45 different nationalities are represented on the flotilla. So it'll be very interesting to see how their governments react. One or two high-profile people as well, like the Hollywood actress Susan Sarandon, the Irish actor Liam Cunningham, various other dignitaries. No high-ranking government officials, of course, because they're cowards. They're either cowards or they're bought and paid for. Certainly in the United States, it has become abundantly clear over the last couple of years that the US government has been wholly captured by the evil of Zionism. And I'm not afraid to, I'm not going to mince my words on that subject. One of the very few genuinely independent voices is that of Thomas Massie. And it's no coincidence that he's also been leading the charge when it comes to full disclosure of the Epstein files, which have only been released in heavily redacted form. 97% of the material in the files released this week had been blacked out. Here's Thomas Massie speaking outside Congress yesterday.
I hope my colleagues are watching this press conference. I want them to think, what if this was your sister? What if this was your daughter? When these survivors speak, the Washington establishment is asking the American public to believe something that is not believable. They're asking you to believe that two individuals created hundreds of victims and they acted alone, and that the DOJ has no idea of who else might have been involved, that nobody else did anything that rose to a criminal enterprise. The American people know that's not true. Now, the Speaker of the House just offered a fig leaf to my colleagues. They're going to vote on a non-binding resolution today that does absolutely nothing. I appreciate the efforts of my colleague James Comer, who's leading the Oversight Committee. They may find some information, but they're allowing the DOJ to curate all of the information that the DOJ is giving them. If you've looked at the pages they've released so far, they're heavily redacted. Some pages are entirely redacted. And 97% of this is already in the public domain. So I'm calling on my colleagues, be one of the next two who sponsors this discharge petition. I think it's shameful that this has been called a hoax. Hopefully today we can clear that up. This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C. So today we're standing with these survivors and we're giving them a voice, and I want to close by thanking them. They are brave. I hope they encourage other survivors to come forward and to tell their stories, not just of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, but anywhere in the country. This is a message that we are sending. This is a litmus test. Can we drain the swamp? Are there people who are outside of the reach of the law? I don't think there should be. So hopefully today we'll get 2 more signatures on the discharge petition. That's all we need.
Because it would seem that there might be very, very wealthy and powerful people, indeed, people funding candidates to run against Thomas Massie, against Marjorie Taylor Greene, against a few people in Congress with the courage to stand up for the truth. The survivors are compiling their own list of people who abused them. They know who they are. They're afraid to release it publicly for fear of assassination, or at the very least doxing and having their lives ruined, threats, intimidation. It's all on the table because we're talking about very wealthy people indeed, very powerful people as well. Thomas Massie went further in a subsequent interview and started naming names, as we can hear now.
My name is Lisa Phillips. Liz Stein. Teresa J. Home.
Jeffrey Epstein survivors rallied behind Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie's demands to release the Epstein files. House Republicans, meanwhile, passed a toothless bill that Massie argues simply encourages investigating Epstein.
Is the Justice Department protecting any friends or donors, sir? So this is a Democrat hoax.
I mean, they're already running $2 million of ads against me. It's 3 billionaires, 2 hedge fund managers. One of them is in Epstein's Black Book.
Who are these billionaires?
John Paulson is one of them. Paul Singer is another. And Miriam Adelson is the other. But the one who's in Epstein's Black Book is John Paulson. And they, by the way, those are max donors to the Speaker of the House. They're max donors to the NRCC. They're max donors to the RNC. They're max donors to Trump's campaign. These are 7- and 8-figure donors, and those are among the people who don't want these files released.
We gave them everything over and over again, more and more and more. But from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given.
I'm spending most of my time trying to pour through the 34,000 pages that were released yesterday, and what I found out are pages completely redacted, entire flight logs completely redacted. So this is a non-release, and the danger that Republicans are running, particularly the administration right now, is recreating the debacle that the Attorney General Bondi had when she gave out the binders, and then everybody took them home and found out it was information they already had. What we need from this oversight committee investigation are criminal referrals. Otherwise, it's just an exercise in paperwork.
We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors.
Of course, those names could well include the President of the United States himself. I wonder if they will include Peter Mandelson photographed with Jeffrey Epstein, now, of course, the UK ambassador to Washington. This is a cross-party issue, but most Republicans, as we heard there, are still siding with the president and his claim that it's all a hoax. One Democrat who's joined Thomas Massey is Ro Khanna, and the two of them spoke to the media yesterday, to CNN.
The survivors said that they had decided to compile their own list, but the reality is if they try to release that list, they're going to be sued into homelessness. They will be attacked. They will have death threats. And so what my colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene volunteered to do, and I've volunteered to do as well, is to read that list on the floor of the House of Representatives, because our founders put into the Constitution speech or debate immunity, which says that we can't be prosecuted for what we say on the floor of the House. So we're willing to help those survivors get those names out there. And as my colleague Ro Khanna has said, we trust the public to determine who were donors to the Epstein Scholarship Fund and who were users of the women who were exposed to sexual abuse, to differentiate between those two groups of people.
Bill Gates, his name came up in the files more than once. Like everybody else, he now claims only to have had a passing acquaintance with Jeff Epstein. He, of course, has a seat at the top table in the White House. He was there yesterday alongside various other tech billionaires, including Mark Zuckerberg. And Gates has started talking about his latest nightmarish plans for more vaccines, gene editing, and, of course, the AI surveillance grid championed by Peter Thiel and Palantir. You can see how all this begins to knit together, can't you? Here is Gates yesterday at the White House.
Well, I'm in the second phase of my career, giving away all the wonderful money that Satya's good work has helped multiply a lot. But I think the thing that ties my first career that I still spend some time on, because AI is so phenomenal, and my second career is innovation, innovating in health in areas like vaccines or gene editing. And the President and I are talking about taking American innovation to the next level to cure and even eradicate some of these diseases. He mentioned polio, which is one that we're close. We don't need new science on that one. For some like HIV and sickle cell, we do need new science, but the U.S. Has the seeds that, in the same way that Warp Speed took those seeds and put them together, I think something fantastic can be done. AI for our foundation is that we want a doctor for everyone in Africa through AI. We want farmers to have incredible advice and, kids to have a chance to learn. So the work being done by the people at this table is changing the world. It's, coming fast, so it's great. We all get together and talk about how the U.S. can lead in this key area and apply it even to the poorest outside the U.S. as well as to our great citizens. So thank you for incredible leadership, including getting this group together.
All sounds benign enough, doesn't it? But I wouldn't trust Gates further than I can throw him. Before we come on to the piece about the Palestinian hostages and what they have to endure, finally, this little clip of the deeply ignorant Kaya Kallas, who doesn't seem to understand even the basics of Second World War history.
That Russia was addressing China like you and like Russia and China, we fought the Second World War. We won the Second World War. We won the Nazism. And I was like, okay, that is something new. But then you can see, first you can, if you know history, then, it raises a lot of question marks in your head. But, I can tell you nowadays people don't really read and remember history that much, which is that, you can see that they buy these narratives.
Well, they buy that narrative because it's true, Kaya. Her own grandfather was involved in one of the partisan units fighting the Red Army on behalf of the Nazis. So perhaps that's why she's got such a twisted view of history. But really, what on earth is a woman like that who looks and sounds as if she should be the deputy assistant manager of the branch of a supermarket? Why is she the European Union foreign policy chief? She's not only ignorant, she's hopelessly inarticulate. World leaders really supposed to take her or the European Union seriously? Well, it's one of the good things about being out of the European Union is that one can say that she no longer represents us in the UK in any way, shape or form. Now, I'm hoping to enliven the end of the program today with a bit of satire. Some very funny clips revoicing Bill Gates at the White House yesterday. But first, this is anything but funny. Here we have Peter Oborne of Double Down News. In this battle between good and evil, the one that's been the theme of today's program, he's describing some of the horrors endured on this very day by Palestinian prisoners inside the Israeli torture gulag.
About it. Israel is running, and let's be absolutely explicit about this, a system of torture camps. Welcome to hell is not an exaggeration. 9 Israeli reservists sodomized by inserting metal objects up the anus of the prisoner and causing terrible internal injuries.
This is leaked CCTV video of what Israeli military police allege is a detainee being sodomized as he's hidden from the view of security cameras by riot shields.
They were arrested, taken away to a detention center where there was an enormous outcry. And there was actually an invasion of the detention center, including politicians, in support of the Israeli soldiers.
שיש מי שבפרקליטות חושב שאפשר לבוא ולעצור חיילים על דברים שעושים למחבלי נוח'בה, לא נגמר. אנחנו לא יכולים להמשיך כרגיל. להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי? כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו. הכל! הכל!
In Israel, the reaction is it right to sodomize prisoners? This conversation went on breakfast television. It's sort of their equivalent in Israel of GMTV.
מבצעים עבירה, חשודים בעבירה של אינוס, בעצור כפות. זה לא מעניין אותך?
בגדול, עוד פעם, זה מעניין לי את העכוז מה עשו לאיש חמאס הזה. אני כל הזמן זוכר, קודם כל, הדבר היחיד שמבחינתי הוא בעיה פה, זה שזו לא איזושהי מדיניות מוסדרת של המדינה להתעלל בעצירים. כי בגדול, זה גם, קודם כל מגיע להם, וזה אחלה נקמה שאנחנו צריכים לתת להם. ודבר שני, אולי זה גם ישמש אותנו קצת יותר כהרתעה.
So you have Israeli TV pundits discussing the merits of allowing Palestinian prisoners to be raped. Many members of the cabinet are justifying it. Take the example of the Israeli energy minister, Eli Cohen. Reservists who do holy work and guard the despicable Hamas. Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is the security minister, went even further.
Take your hands off our reservists, like it is in the prison service, so it is in the IDF. Our fighters deserves full support.
This tells you that something has gone wrong, but it also tells you that something's gone wrong with us. Haven't we heard a word of condemnation from the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer? I haven't heard it. Nothing from Rishi Sunak, who promised Netanyahu his unequivocal support. Nothing from the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Andrew Mitchell. Nothing from Britain's Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, who famously said on no evidence at all that Hamas had raped babies.
And we must recognise that Israel is facing a huge existential crisis. 1,300 people dead, murdered, babies raped.
And yet he has not yet said one word of condemnation of the treatment of Palestinians in these, what can only be called torture camps run by the Israeli state. And I think that means that we accept them. Imagine how we'd be reacting if this was emerging about Putin treating Ukrainian prisoners. You can imagine the frenzy of outrage. You don't get it when it's committed by our ally Israel. And I think that shows that we have done the same as the Israelis. We cannot see Palestinians as human beings. To behave in this bestial way towards Palestinians is not regarded by the British media as disgusting and foul and inhumane. It's just, to use that code word, it's been normalized not just in Israel, but in Britain as well. Imagine we learnt, the British people tomorrow morning picked up the papers and discovered that prison officers had been systematically sodomizing inmates in His Majesty's prisons. It would be a national outcry. That would be a sense of utter horror. You know, you get the Sunday Times investigation team would be in there. The Sun would be having screaming headlines sort of denouncing the way that it was being handled. The Prime Minister would have to come on and justify or denounce it. There'd be questions in the House of Commons. You can imagine the near total silence by the Western media. Most Western papers actually invented stories about what was happening on October the 7th. Papers which went along with the fabrications by Israeli sources, 40 beheaded babies, mass rapes, etc. on October the 7th. But at the same time, they downplayed or scarcely reported these horrifying reports of sheer barbarity committed by Israel against Palestinian prisoners. I am puzzled that there's been so little Western reporting of this. You've had the United Nations report, which says that quite a number of these prisoners have died because they're beaten to death or just left to die. B'Tselem, which is the leading Israeli human rights group, published a devastating report based on the interviews with 50 or more prisoners, which make completely unbearable reading.
ينادوا عليه يقولوا تعبوس كندرتي.
اللي مكسور ايده، اللي مكسور انفه، اللي رجله
تم تكسيره في معنى الكلمة.
الجندي برجله دفعني فوقعت على وجهي.
فطلع نصيبنا في ضربة قوية في الأذن أفقدتني السمع تماما.
كان فيها سجين استشهد برضه خالد الشويش الله يرحمه. لدرجة إنه الدودة بيطلع من جسمه وما في أي نوع من العلاج.
أخ أبو أحمد أنا تعرضت للاغتصاب بمعنى أنهم قاموا بوضع
إجري سامع خبط في إجريه يقول له قوم قوم يا حيوان قوم يا كلب. فهموا إنه هو مش قايم مش راح يقوم وأخذوه إجوا جابوه في كيس أسود.
If you are a Palestinian prisoner in one of these jails, very likely you haven't been charged with any criminal or other offence.
قتلت اخوتي قصفت دارنا اي اساس بنقول اي وين الاسرى وين ايش بعرف وين الاسرى ساقني في اماكن حساسه كان يضربني في اماكن حساسه ساقني فيها كذا مره عابت ما انا يعني لا كنت يعني اصيح زي الاطفال.
You're going to be randomly beaten, tortured. You may be sodomized, normally by metal objects. Internal organs have been smashed up and as a result.
طمل طبعا وانت مطمل بتبقى بقول هنا هدول بيبقوا شباب وبنات الطرف في الطيز بتنحط بس لا هو الطرفه طرفه هيك خملها زي هيك القد حديد لما تفتحها زي هيك ويحط لك اياها جوا بخلي مخك يطلع.
There are 9,500 Palestinians held in Israeli jails, approximately 200 of whom are children.
I was part of the human rights vetting process for arms going to Israel, and a charity called Defense of Children International Palestine drew our attention at the State Department to the sexual assault, actually the rape of a 13-year-old boy that occurred in an Israeli prison in the Mosque Bia in Jerusalem. We examined these allegations. We believed they were credible. We put them to the government of Israel. And you know what happened the next day? The IDF went into the DCIP offices and removed all their computers and declared them a terrorist entity.
This is nothing new. It's been going on for a very long time, probably to the origins of the Israeli state, and then with venomous intensity ever since October the 7th. In July, I was in Jerusalem and saw this awful tape of a man Muazzaz is coming out of the Negev jail in South Israel, and he was clearly unable to walk unaided. His right arm was stuck out in front of him, looked broken. I asked our bureau chief in Jerusalem if we could go and interview him, and she did. She sorted that out, and we went together. He'd never been charged with anything. I think this is very important. Nobody had accused him of a crime. He has a pregnant wife and 4 children. They came in, they smashed everything up, took him away, and basically he went through 9 months of beatings.
ينهال عليك بأجهزة التفتيش التي يفتش به الجسد، ينهال عليك بالضرب على الأعضاء التناسلية، بالضرب المبرح وأنت عارية، ينهال على الأسير وهو عاري بهروات حديدية وبأجهزة التفتيش على الأعضاء التناسلية ضربا.
In a nearby cell, somebody was beaten to death and left to die.
استشهد في غرفة 6 اسمه ثائر أبو عصب، قتلة تلك الوحدة، وحدة الكيتر، بعد ما قتلوه بالضرب على رأسه بالهروات الحديدية، مكث في الغرفة ساعة كاملة، لم يخرجوه من الغرفة.
He said, the prison is still in my head. He was so traumatized by this experience. The other thing he said was that every other prisoner is getting the same treatment. The beatings, the torture, the starvation, the barbarity. You're not treated like human beings. He said, this is like Guantanamo or Abu Ghraib. This is what we're talking about, is Israel's Abu Ghraib moment. What we're talking about here is war crimes, very grave war crimes, the torture and abuse of prisoners. Why the ICC, despite the mountain of evidence which now exists, has been unable to look for arrest warrants against the people directing this barbarity is utterly baffling and completely wrong. By failing to act in the face of so much evidence, the International Criminal Court is itself sanctioning this gross abuse, this inhumanity which is going on all the time now in Israeli prisons. The evidence of what is happening in Israeli jails, or should we call them torture camps, shows that Israel has passed through some awful invisible barrier and is now a very sick society. The silence of mainstream media and most senior Western politicians, I'm afraid, shows that we too have entered into the same nightmare moral universe as Israel's Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Prime Minister Netanyahu. However uncomfortable or difficult the story is, Double Down News will cover it.
As will I here. I will also cover it for you on Unprecedented TV. Now, amongst the people that should be arrested, of course, for these crimes is the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog. I mean, if you're the president of any organization, you're surely responsible for what happens beneath you. But rather than being arrested, it seems he's going to be welcomed in the corridors of power of Whitehall next week. He's due to visit London next Thursday. John Harding says, does Starmer expect us to take this sitting down? Definitely not. The independent group of MPs, soon to become your party, have written their strong statement of disapproval, which has been sent to the Prime Minister. It is absolutely unconscionable that somebody who signs bombs that blow up innocent men, women and children in Gaza should be received with any kind of diplomatic nicety. This is absolutely abysmal stuff. I've seen tweets from people saying that the whole of Whitehall needs to be blockaded. According to Emily Thornberry, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, efforts should be made to engage with the president. She said the only solution to this is through politics, through discussion. No, Emily, it's through arrest. It's through sanctions. It's through sending the ambassador home. It's through the total economic and diplomatic isolation of the pariah genocide state. So big flashpoint there in London next Thursday. It's another flashpoint in London tomorrow, where I will be attending the Plasticine Action rally. 1,000 people there set to hold up signs saying, I oppose genocide, I support action. I wonder how many arrests will be made at that time. But finally, before I go, a little bit of satire, a little bit of humor. Somebody put some different words to Bill Gates' meeting yesterday at the White House, and very entertaining they are too.
Well, I just wanted to apologize for every single fucking version of Windows that sucked, which is basically all of them. Also, sorry for creating viruses just so I could profit from selling you the antivirus software. And on that note, sorry for spreading real viruses by profiting from vaccines and shit. Also, sorry for sterilizing so many of you. There's just too many of us, and some of you are not nice. That's why I'm trying to block out the sun. Anyway, I just came here to ask for a pardon from all the Epstein shit. Thank you.
I think that's worth watching again and again. I'm Basil Valentine. It's nice to end on a humorous note at this particularly dark time for our planet, but good will prevail over evil. Make sure you're on the right side. I'm back same time on Monday, 1 p.m. UK time, so do join me for your daily news edit. Don't bother with the BBC or the propaganda services. Come here to Unprecedented TV, and I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now. Unfiltered, uncensored, unprecedented TV.